Hi all. Today's session, I thought I would do something that is often introduced right at the early stages. If anybody ever takes part in a mindfulness-based course that runs over 8 weeks, this is one of the first activities that you will ever do in learning what mindfulness is all about. And it's about mindful eating. And the focus is really here to help us work through and understand what it's like to actually really fully pay attention to something that we probably would just do automatically and that we never spend any time or attention to do, and just noticing what actually happens when we do choose to change the way in which we relate to an experience that we're having. And essentially that is what mindfulness is about. It's about learning how to respond and to relate differently to the experiences that we have on a day-to-day basis. So in the mindfulness practices, the courses that you might do over an 8-week period, we generally would introduce you to eating a raisin. So in order to do this something slightly differently, I'm going to suggest that we use a lovely little satsuma or a little orange, whatever that might be. So at this point, it would be great if you could pause this video and try and get hold of something to do in your mindful eating practice. If you have something like this, that would be great. But if you don't, then I would say maybe choose any piece of fruit, choose a raisin, choose a piece of bread, choose a biscuit, choose a piece of chocolate if you want, but just be mindful that your chocolate will melt throughout this practice. Something that you are happy to eat, and we can use that to kind of guide through the similar practices. So I will use this as my example. So some of the things may relate to you, may not relate to you, depending on what it is that you're eating. At this point, why don't we pause the video just for a moment for you to go and get something to eat. Okay, so hopefully by now you will have got your mini orange or satsuma or however it is that you want it, or something else that you are happy to eat. And I'm going to take you through some really simple stages with the focus here to really pay attention to and to become fully aware of what it is to be in contact with this most amazing thing in the entire planet. And I would like you to bring this attitude of a complete beginner's mind to this process. So that's in the sense that this is the first time that you have ever seen this particular thing and you have never tasted it before. You don't really kind of know what it is. This can be a really great activity to do with young children as well as grown-ups too. So let's go through this. So I'd like you to take your palm and just to place your item, whatever that might be, in the palm of your hand. And I just want you to spend some time really looking at it and really tuning in to everything that you are seeing. So you might notice the colours, for example, or particular marks around the outside. You might notice like the weight of this. You might notice how it sits in your palm of your hand, whether or not it's comfortable or awkward or slimy or dry. You might notice, for example, the way in which your light or the sunshine reflects on the surface of it. You might choose to turn it around and have another look at what's going on. You might notice ridges or dimples, like a smoothness or a roughness. And then just taking it between your fingers and just using your fingertips to become just really in tune to the sensations of what it feels like in your hands and your fingers right now. Perhaps noticing those ridges now in more detail and what do they feel like. Perhaps noticing any changes in the sensations right now. So does it always feel the same as you drag your fingertips across the skin? Do certain parts feel rough? If you squeezed it? What does that feel like? Does it give? Is it springy? Is it soft? Is it hard? We might hold it up to the light just to notice whether or not the light reflects off it in a particular way. At the moment, my fruit is covered. I know this. But in a moment, I'm going to uncover it and see whether or not there might be a different experience to have here. But at this point, you can really notice perhaps the way in which the light reflects off the thing that you want to eat. Maybe you can see through the thing that you are choosing to eat right now. So if you have an orange like this, or maybe if you have a banana or something, I'm going to ask you to really mindfully, and by that I mean slowly, carefully, and really tuning in to the tension of what it actually feels like to actually unravel your piece of fruit now. So noticing how the choices that you make when you're doing that, and I often start by just pushing my finger in the skin, and that feeling of that kind of pressure where you break through and peel off, and I'm noticing I can hear something here. So you might want to bring up your fruit to your ear and noticing what is it that you're hearing. Perhaps a tearing, stretching. If you haven't got an orange, then what I would suggest that you do, so if you have something that's easily held in your hand, that you roll this between your fingers in some way and just listen in to see what a raisin sounds like when you squish it. And you might be surprised by what it is that you see, that you hear. As you take off the outer layer of the orange, take a moment here to really smell that. This smell might conjure up for you particular memories, or even just the idea that this is a pleasant smell or maybe an unpleasant smell. Perhaps notice the difference between the inside of the skin and the outside of the skin. A really lovely kind of crackling sound that I've got here, and I'm taking the rest of my skin off my fruit. And a tearing as the skin moves away from the segments. So if you have, like me, just peeled your orange, take a few moments now to have a look at what your piece of fruit is. Noticing how different that is from the skin. The shape that isn't quite round. The slightly warmer sensation now between my fingers. Sort of a slightly softer, smoother sort of texture. And then as I break up my orange, have a look at some of the segments inside. And this might be a really good opportunity for those of you who didn't have a raisin or something to actually now hold this up towards the light and just look at what you can see. Well, I'm seeing certainly a change in colour. Some bits are a bit darker orange, some are really, really light orange, but I can see all of these veins. They kind of look like butterfly wings almost. I don't know if you can kind of see that probably in there, but kind of very Strange, actually, when you really pay close attention to it. Yeah, all the different veins, the different colours of orange, the kind of pith around the outside. So now we're going to taste our piece of fruit, our orange, our raisin, or whatever it kind of might be. And so in order to do this, I just want you to try and take this as best you can in a slow way so that we get the full experience of what it is to taste it. So the first thing to do would be kind of just put it right on top of your lip. And actually we get a really full sensation then of the smell here. And that might be taking you to places in your mind. And then we're going to place whatever it is we're choosing to eat inside our mouth. And what we're going to do here is that we're just going to allow it to kind of rest on our tongue in some way. So as best you can, try not to eat it just yet. So I'm going to talk careful, which isn't very great, but just to try and explain what I want you to try and notice what's going on in your mouth. So perhaps using your tongue to notice the shape and the way it feels inside your mouth, the weight of it on your tongue, and what's actually happening around your mouth at the moment. So an awareness of perhaps your salivary glands kind of activating, getting ready to want to eat it. You might notice that you're starting to swallow a little bit more. If, like me, you put it in the side of your mouth, what kind of shape does that feel? And the next thing I'd like you to do is I would like you to, using your teeth, just bite into it, but just one bite, and just noticing what happens at that point. So really noticing that instant sensation of taste when you bite into it, what's happening, whether or not it's activating your salivary glands again, whether or not you're swallowing, whether you get a burst of flavour. What's the taste? Sweet? Is it sour? Is it savoury? What are your reactions right now? Do you just want to finish eating it as quickly as you can? Or are you happy to savour it really in some way? And then at this point, to finish chewing and swallowing and fully tasting it. And at these points, really becoming aware of what is it that you're tasting? What is it like to continue to like chew and to finish off eating the fullness of that? What was it like to swallow it? And then now, as we've all finished, just to take a moment and to think about and to become aware of what it has been that you have actually noticed through that experience. And at this point, normally throughout an 8-week course, we would have a chance to chat with each other about the types of things that you were noticing. And so some things might be around perhaps how a particular smell might trigger certain types of memories. So quite often for many of us as we were growing up, we often had like something in our Christmas stockings, for example. Who knows why? I don't really know why. But so that can often trigger a memory or something like that, or it might be a holiday. So what we're noticing here is that something as simple as this can have a lot of triggers for us, and a mind can take us off in these different places. But also about the awareness that when we choose to pay really close attention to something that is actually really kind of quite mundane and something new on a day-to-day experience without even noticing it, that might it be possible for us to become more fully aware of something that happens? That actually the opportunity is there to have an experience that's so much richer and detailed if we just choose to pay attention to it in a slight moment. So you might be able to want to explore these simple principles around mindful eating to the next time you make a cup of tea, for example, the next time you have or the next time you have your meal. So you might notice that obviously, so all of a sudden you might take a lot longer to kind of eat, but actually, what is the difference experiences that you get between eating normally and choosing to pay mindful attention to the eating practices, even just for a few moments? So I hope you found that an enjoyable experience, and I will see you soon. Thanks.